I want you to picture two people sitting in identical offices, same company, same salary of $78,000 per year. The first person gets paid Friday morning. By Sunday night, they're not entirely sure where $400 went. Coffee shops, a few restaurant meals, some online purchases that seemed reasonable in the moment, gas, groceries, and somehow the weekend consumed money faster than they can track. They tell themselves they'll be more careful next month. They've been telling themselves this for 3 years. Their savings account has $1,200. The second person gets paid Friday morning. By Friday afternoon, $1,560 has automatically moved into 3 different accounts: emergency fund, investment account, and a targeted savings goal. What remains in checking is exactly what they've allocated for the next 2 weeks of expenses. They'll spend it all, but it's already accounted for. Their savings across all accounts total $47,000. Same salary, same city, same cost of living. One person is building wealth that will transform their life. The other is trapped in a cycle where money arrives and disappears with nothing to show for the pattern. This isn't about one person being smarter or more disciplined. It's about one person understanding the mechanical systems that make saving inevitable while the other relies on willpower and good intentions. Today, I'm going to show you the proven strategies that can double your current savings by the end of 2026. Not through extreme deprivation or side hustles that consume your life, but through systematic changes that make saving the default outcome rather than the aspirational exception. These strategies work regardless of your current income or savings level. Whether you have $500 saved or $50,000, the principles scale. Whether you earn $40,000 or $140,000, the mechanics remain identical. Let me start with the foundational concept that separates people who successfully build savings from people who perpetually intend to but never do. Savings is not what remains after spending. It's what disappears before spending becomes possible. Read that again because it contradicts everything most people practice. The standard approach treats savings as residual. Earn money, spend on necessities and wants throughout the month, and save whatever's left over. This approach fails for a simple reason. Spending expands to consume available resources. If money is available, you'll find ways to spend it. Grocery trips become slightly more indulgent. Small purchases feel harmless. Convenience spending seems justified. By month's end, nothing remains. The proven approach inverts this sequence. Money arrives, savings disappear immediately and automatically, and spending occurs only from what remains. This isn't about discipline, it's about sequence. When savings happen first, spending must adapt to reality. When spending happens first, savings adapt to fantasy. This leads to the first strategy that forms the foundation for everything else. Strategy 1: automate savings on payday before you see the money. Every dollar you save should move automatically from your checking account to designated savings vehicles on the same day your paycheck arrives. Not 3 days later, not when you remember. The same day, ideally within hours. This automation removes decision-making from the process. You never hold the money and choose to save it. The system executes the transfer without requiring your involvement. Human psychology cannot override a process it never encounters. Set up automatic transfers for every savings category you're building. Emergency fund gets a transfer. Investment account gets a transfer. Specific goal savings get transfers. The automation should be ruthlessly consistent. Same day, every pay period, same amounts, no exceptions for months when you feel like you need the money more. Here's why this matters more than any other strategy. Research on savings behavior shows that people who automate save an average of 2.5 times more than people with identical incomes who save manually. The difference isn't income or intentions. It's the removal of friction and decision fatigue. Manual saving requires you to consciously choose savings over spending every single pay period. That's 24 to 26 decisions per year where you must actively resist the temptation to keep money available. Automated saving requires one decision: the initial setup. After that, the system executes regardless of your mood, stress level, or competing desires. You'll adapt your spending to accommodate the reduced checking balance because you have no choice. The money is simply gone. Strategy 2: implement the percentage escalation system. Here's how most people approach increasing their savings. They save the same amount month after month, maybe $200 or $400 or whatever feels manageable. When they get a raise, they briefly consider increasing savings, then decide to think about it later. The raise gets absorbed into lifestyle instead. The percentage escalation system prevents this pattern. Instead of saving fixed amounts, you save fixed percentages that automatically increase. Start wherever feels achievable, maybe 10% of gross income. Set a calendar reminder for 3 months from now. At that point, increase the percentage by 1 point to 11%. 3 months later, increase to 12%. Continue this pattern until you reach your target savings rate, perhaps 25% or 30% or more. The gradual escalation feels manageable because each increase is small. Going from 10% to 11% on a $5,000 monthly income means finding an extra $50 per month. That's achievable through minor adjustments. One less restaurant meal, slightly more careful grocery shopping, one foregone impulse purchase. But over time, the compound effect is dramatic. Someone earning $60,000 who starts saving 10% and escalates by 1 percentage point every 3 months reaches 20% within 2.5 years. Their annual savings goes from $6,000 to $12,000 without any income increase. If they receive even modest raises during this period, the actual dollar amounts grow even faster. The percentage approach also scales automatically with income changes. Get a raise and your savings increase proportionally without requiring new decisions. The system adjusts itself. Strategy 3. Create category-specific savings accounts with clear purposes. Here's a pattern that undermines most savings attempts. Someone builds up $3,000 in their savings account. Then their car needs $800 in repairs. They withdraw from savings, which now shows $2,200. Psychologically, they've moved backward. The account balance decreased. This feels like failure even though handling the car repair without debt is actually a success. They lose motivation. The savings account feels like it exists to get depleted rather than to grow. The solution is multiple accounts, each with a specific purpose and clear rules about what constitutes a legitimate withdrawal. Account 1 is your emergency fund. This covers only genuine emergencies, job loss, major medical expenses, critical home repairs, not holidays, not gifts, not opportunities to buy something on sale, actual emergencies. Account 2 is your investment account. This money moves into index funds or retirement accounts and doesn't return to checking under any circumstances. It's permanently allocated to long-term growth. Account 3 is targeted savings for known upcoming expenses. Perhaps you're saving for a vacation, a car replacement, or a home down payment. This account has a specific goal and timeline. Account 4 is your buffer account. This covers irregular but predictable expenses like car maintenance, medical copays, annual insurance premiums, or home repairs. You contribute regularly and withdraw when these expenses occur without touching your emergency fund. This separation provides psychological benefits that dramatically improve savings persistence. Your emergency fund only grows, never shrinks, because emergencies are rare. Your investment account compounds without interruption. Your targeted savings shows clear progress toward specific goals. Your buffer account handles life's irregularities without derailing other savings. Each account tells a different story, and most of those stories are about progress rather than depletion. Strategy 4. Deploy the 50-30-20 rule with aggressive reinterpretation. You've probably heard of the 50-30-20 budget framework. 50% of after-tax income for needs, 30% for wants, 20% for savings and debt repayment. It's reasonable advice for people starting from zero financial literacy, but it's not how you double your savings by 2026. The aggressive reinterpretation inverts the priorities. You target 50% for savings and investments, 30% for needs, and 20% for wants. This seems impossible until you examine what most people categorize as needs versus wants. Housing is a need, but the amount spent on housing is often a want. Transportation is a need, but a $600 car payment versus $200 represents want, not need. Food is a need, but restaurant meals are wants disguised as needs through habit. The aggressive framework forces honest categorization. It asks what you actually need versus what you've simply become accustomed to having. Most people discover their true needs consume far less than 50% of income. Here's a practical path to this ratio. If you're currently saving 10%, don't jump immediately to 50%. Use the percentage escalation system to move gradually. Increase savings by 1 to 2 percentage points every quarter while simultaneously decreasing wants by the same amount. Over 2 years, you can move from 10% savings to 30% or more without the shock of dramatic overnight changes. The framework also clarifies trade-offs. Every dollar in the wants category is a dollar not building your future. That doesn't mean eliminate all wants. It means be conscious about the exchange rate. Is this want worth delaying financial independence? Sometimes yes, often no. Strategy 5. Practice zero-based monthly budgeting with rollover. Traditional budgeting often fails because it's either too rigid or too vague. Too rigid and you abandon it the first time reality diverges from the plan. Too vague and it provides no actual guidance. Zero-based budgeting with rollover solves both problems. Here's how it works. At the start of each month, allocate every dollar of expected income to a specific category. Rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, entertainment, savings, investments, everything. The total allocated should equal total income. $0 remain unassigned. This is the zero-based component. Every dollar has a job before the month begins, but life isn't perfectly predictable. You might spend less on groceries one month. You might have an unexpected expense in another category. The rollover component handles this. Unspent money in any category rolls to the next month in that same category or moves to savings if the category is fully funded. Overspending in one category must be covered by reducing another category, not by abandoning the budget. This system provides structure without brittleness. You've made intentional decisions about allocation, but you maintain flexibility to adjust as reality unfolds. The key discipline is that every dollar remains accounted for. Nothing disappears into vague spending that you can't explain at month end. Strategy 6. Implement the 24-hour rule for all discretionary purchases over $50. Impulse spending destroys savings goals more effectively than any other factor. Not because individual impulse purchases are large, but because they're frequent and invisible. A $30 impulse purchase weekly costs $1,560 annually. That's $1,560 that could have been saved, invested, and growing. The 24-hour rule creates friction that eliminates most impulse spending. Any discretionary purchase over $50 requires a mandatory 24-hour waiting period. You identify something you want to buy, you note it down, you wait 24 hours. If you still want it after 24 hours and it fits your budget, you can purchase it. Research on consumer behavior shows that approximately 70% of purchase desires fade within 24 hours if not immediately acted upon. The wanting was triggered by context, emotion, or marketing rather than genuine need or lasting preference. The waiting period lets the emotional spike subside. What felt urgent and necessary at the moment reveals itself as optional and unimportant a day later. For purchases over $200, extend the waiting period. For purchases over $1,000, extend it to 1 month. The larger the purchase, the more time you need to ensure the decision is rational rather than emotional. This single rule can easily save $2,000 to $5,000 annually for people prone to impulse purchases. That's $2,000 to $5,000 directly added to savings without reducing quality of life in any meaningful way. Strategy 7. Conduct quarterly spending audits to identify leak categories. Here's something that shocks most people when they first do it. They have categories where money disappears in small amounts that aggregate to substantial totals. Subscription services they forgot about, convenience purchases that happen so routinely they're invisible, fees and charges that seem too small to matter individually. Every quarter, download 3 months of transactions from all accounts and credit cards. Categorize every expense. Calculate the total spent in each category. Then ask yourself which categories contain spending that didn't meaningfully improve your life. Common leak categories include subscription services you rarely use, food delivery and takeout that's become default rather than occasional, convenience store purchases, ATM fees and bank charges, unused gym memberships or app subscriptions. One person I know discovered they were spending $140 monthly on subscription services. Streaming platforms, apps, software they'd signed up for and forgotten. Canceling the unused ones freed $95 per month. That's $1,140 annually, which invested at 8% annual returns becomes $6,000 over 5 years. The quarterly audit catches these leaks before they persist for years. It also reveals patterns in your spending that you can't see from daily transaction level. You might discover you're spending $400 monthly on restaurants without realizing it because no single meal feels excessive. The aggregate tells a different story. Strategy 8. Build a buffer month to break the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. Many people who earn good incomes still live paycheck to paycheck. They're not spending more than they earn, but they're spending everything they earn with no temporal buffer. Money arrives, money departs, the cycle continues. This creates stress and eliminates flexibility. Unexpected expenses become crises. Timing mismatches between bills and paychecks create anxiety. The solution is building a buffer month. This means saving 1 month of total expenses in a checking account buffer that sits untouched. Once you have this buffer, you're spending last month's income this month. Your paycheck arrives and joins the buffer. Your spending draws from money that arrived 30 days ago. This temporal separation transforms your financial psychology. You're never worried about whether money will arrive in time for bills. It's already there. You're never stressed about timing. The buffer absorbs all timing mismatches. Building this buffer requires temporary sacrifice. You need to find 1 month's worth of expenses to set aside. This might take 3 to 6 months of aggressive saving, reducing discretionary spending to minimum levels and directing everything else to buffer building. Once established, the buffer maintains itself. You're still spending everything you earn just on a 1-month delay. The psychological relief is immediate and substantial. Strategy 9. Use the savings rate metric instead of the savings amount metric. Most people track savings by absolute amounts. I saved $300 this month. I have $5,000 in my emergency fund. These metrics are useful but incomplete. They don't account for income changes or provide clear targets. The savings rate metric is more powerful. It measures what percentage of your gross income you're saving across all categories. Someone earning $4,000 monthly who saves $800 has a 20% savings rate. Someone earning $8,000 monthly who saves $800 has a 10% savings rate. The first person is building wealth twice as fast relative to their income. Tracking savings rate provides several advantages. It scales automatically with income changes. Get a raise and you know exactly how much should flow to savings to maintain your rate. It enables clear targets. Decide you want to reach a 30% savings rate and you have an unambiguous goal. It reveals whether lifestyle inflation is consuming income growth. If your income increases 15% but your savings rate stays flat, you know the raise disappeared into spending. Target increasing your savings rate by 5 to 10 percentage points per year until you reach your desired level. For most people, a 25% to 35% savings rate enables reaching financial independence in 20 to 30 years. Above 50%, and you're on track for financial independence in 15 years or less. Strategy 10. Practice income shielding for all windfalls and raises. Here's the pattern that prevents most people from ever getting ahead financially. They receive unexpected money, a tax refund, a bonus, a gift, a raise, and they absorb it into spending. The windfall briefly makes life more comfortable, then disappears without lasting impact. Income shielding means that 100% of unexpected income and at least 50% of raises go directly to savings before you adjust your lifestyle. Tax refund arrives, it moves immediately to savings or investments. You never see it in your checking account. Work bonus, gone to savings the day it hits your account. Inheritance or gift, saved before you consider purchases. Salary increase, at minimum half the increase goes to savings rate escalation. The other half can improve lifestyle if desired. This strategy prevents lifestyle inflation from consuming income growth. It ensures that financial progress happens whenever your income increases rather than your spending simply rising to match. Someone who shields income effectively can double their savings in 2 to 3 years even with modest income growth. A person earning $50,000 who gets 4% raises and shields half of each increase plus one $2,000 bonus will add approximately $4,000 to annual savings. Combined with percentage escalation, they could move from saving $5,000 annually to saving $10,000 annually within 3 years. Let me show you how these strategies combine into a complete system you can implement starting today. This week, set up automatic transfers for savings on your next payday. Start with whatever percentage feels achievable, even if it's just 5%. The automation matters more than the amount initially. This month, open the separate savings accounts for emergency fund, investments, targeted goals, and buffer expenses. Having the structure in place makes the rest of the system work. This quarter, implement the 24-hour rule for discretionary purchases and conduct your first spending audit. Identify your leak categories and eliminate or reduce them. Over the next year, use percentage escalation to increase your savings rate by 1 percentage point every quarter. Simultaneously work on building your buffer month. The timeline to double your savings depends on your starting point, but the math is straightforward. If you currently save $5,000 annually, and you increase your savings rate from 10% to 20% over 18 months while receiving modest income growth, you'll be saving $10,000 annually by late 2025. Maintained through 2026, you've doubled your annual savings rate. If you currently have $10,000 in total savings and you increase your savings rate to $15,000 annually, you'll have over $20,000 saved by end of 2026 even without investment returns. The transformation isn't about dramatic overnight changes. It's about systematic implementation of proven strategies that make saving the default outcome. Here's what makes these strategies different from generic savings advice. They're mechanical, not motivational. They don't require you to maintain enthusiasm or discipline indefinitely. They require initial setup and then they execute automatically. They're also cumulative. Each strategy amplifies the others. Automation ensures consistency. Percentage escalation ensures growth. Separate accounts ensure psychological sustainability. The 24-hour rule ensures you're not undermining progress with impulse spending. Together, they create a system where saving becomes easier than not saving. The path of least resistance leads to wealth building rather than wealth consumption. I want to address the objection that's probably forming in your mind. You're thinking your situation is different. Your expenses are too high. Your income is too limited. Your obligations are too demanding. These strategies might work for others, but not for you. I've heard this objection from people earning $35,000 and from people earning $135,000. Specific reasons differ, but the underlying resistance is identical. It's the discomfort of acknowledging that current financial outcomes result from current financial behaviors. Changing outcomes requires changing behaviors. That's uncomfortable. It's easier to believe circumstances are unique and unchangeable. Here's the truth. These strategies scale to virtually any income level above poverty. They work for single people and families. They work in high cost of living areas and low cost areas. They work for people with debt and people without. The mechanics remain valid. What changes is the specific numbers and the timeline. Someone earning $40,000 might start by automating 8% savings and escalating from there. Someone earning $90,000 might start at 15%. The percentage differs, but the system is identical. The question isn't whether these strategies can work for you. It's whether you're willing to prioritize future security over present consumption. That's not a financial question. It's a values question. Both answers are valid, but only one leads to doubled savings by 2026. Let me leave you with this final thought. The gap between people who build substantial savings and people who don't isn't income. It's not intelligence. It's not even discipline in the traditional sense. It's the presence or absence of systems that makes saving automatic. You can rely on willpower and good intentions. Some months you'll succeed, some you'll fail, and over years you'll make modest progress that never quite reaches your goals. Or you can implement these proven strategies and make saving the mechanical outcome of how your financial life is structured. The second path is easier, it's more reliable, and it's the only path that consistently produces the outcome of doubled savings by the end of 2026. The choice is simply whether you'll implement the systems or continue hoping that intention alone will somehow produce different results than it has so far. The strategies are proven. The timeline is clear. What happens next depends entirely on whether you'll execute.